From cork production in Hiroshima to becoming one of the world's most daring automakers, Mazda's story is one of resilience, risk, and relentless passion. This is the company that rose from the ashes of war, dared to gamble on the rotary engine, and stunned the world at Le Mans. It gave us legends like the RX-7 and the beloved MX-5 Miata, while also redefining efficiency with SkyActiv technology. Today, Mazda blends artistry and innovation as it steps into the electric future, still guided by the spirit of driving joy. Join us as we explore the full history of Mazda, a journey of bold ideas, iconic cars, and a brand that refused to follow the crowd. In 1920, in the city of Hiroshima, a company was born with a simple mission: to produce cork. At the time, no one could have guessed that this tiny business, known as Toyo Cork Kogyo, would grow into one of the most innovative car manufacturers in the world. It wasn't founded with the roar of engines or the sleek lines of sports cars. Instead, it started with everyday products: cork substitutes for bottle caps and insulation. Yet from these humble beginnings, a spirit of resilience and creativity took root, one that would later define Mazda. The early years weren't easy. The company faced financial struggles and quickly realized it needed to diversify beyond cork if it wanted to survive. In the 1930s, it shifted into machinery and small three-wheeled trucks. These vehicles weren't glamorous, but they were practical, tough, and reliable, qualities that would stay in Mazda's DNA. These three-wheelers became a common sight in Japanese towns, carrying goods and helping small businesses thrive. What makes this chapter of Mazda's history fascinating is how unexpected it feels. A cork company turning into a car brand is not a story you hear every day. But that unpredictability became a pattern. Mazda would go on to make decisions that no one else dared to, often taking risks that seemed impossible at the time. That willingness to experiment, born from the struggle of those early years, would one day lead to rotary engines, iconic sports cars, and world-class innovations. The story of Mazda begins quietly, but like a seed planted in tough soil, it grew with determination. From cork to cars, this unlikely journey shows how greatness can come from the most ordinary places. And this was just the beginning. The 1940s brought devastation to Japan, and no city felt it more than Hiroshima. On August 6, 1945, the atomic bomb reduced much of the city to ashes, destroying lives, homes, and industries in a single, horrifying moment. For Mazda, still known as Toyo Kogyo, the future seemed uncertain. Their facilities were damaged, their workers scattered, and their hometown lay in ruins. Yet instead of collapsing under the weight of tragedy, Mazda became a symbol of Hiroshima's determination to rebuild. Within just a few years, the company restarted production of its three-wheel trucks, providing essential transport for a city desperate to move supplies and rebuild its economy. These simple vehicles became lifelines, carrying food, materials, and hope through streets still marked by destruction. They weren't flashy or powerful, but they represented something much greater: resilience. In many ways, Mazda's survival mirrored Hiroshima's. Both rose from devastation with a quiet strength, proving that even in the darkest times, renewal was possible. This chapter of Mazda's history is less about cars and more about spirit. It highlights the company's ability to endure hardship and adapt when survival seemed impossible. Without this strength, Mazda might never have reached the global stage. Every future innovation, from the bold leap into rotary engines to the success of the MX-5 Miata, can be traced back to this moment of rebirth. Mazda's connection to Hiroshima is more than geography, it's identity. The city's story of tragedy and recovery became the company's own, shaping its culture of perseverance. While other automakers measured success in sales, Mazda carried the weight of something deeper, a promise to keep moving forward, no matter the odds. This was the spirit that would guide the brand into its first true steps as an automaker. By the 1950s, Japan was entering a new era of growth. Roads were being rebuilt, industries were thriving again, and families were dreaming of owning their first vehicles. For Mazda, still officially Toyo Kogyo at the time, This was the perfect moment to step beyond trucks and experiment with passenger cars. The company had already earned a reputation for its three-wheeled vehicles, which had powered small businesses across Japan. But the dream was bigger. Mazda wanted to create machines that move people, not just goods. In 1960, that dream took form with the Mazda RX-360 Coupe, a tiny two-door car that became the company's first real step into the automobile market. It was small, affordable, and stylish in its own quirky way, making it perfect for post-war Japanese families eager for mobility. The R360 didn't just sell well, it signaled that Mazda could compete in a market dominated by larger, more established names like Toyota and Nissan. Soon after, Mazda introduced the Carol, another compact car that built on this success. These early models may look simple today, but back then they represented freedom. They gave everyday people the ability to travel beyond their neighborhoods, to explore and connect with the world in ways they never could before. What makes this chapter remarkable is how quickly Mazda adapted. In less than a decade, the company transformed from a maker of utility trucks into a contender in Japan's growing car culture. This bold entry into passenger cars laid the foundation for what would follow, an era of risk-taking and innovation that would push Mazda far beyond its humble beginnings. The journey from cork to trucks and now to cars showed the world that Mazda was ready to stand tall in the automotive landscape. As the 1960s unfolded, Mazda found itself at a crossroads. Competing with automotive giants in Japan and abroad wasn't easy, and Mazda needed something unique, something that could set it apart. That answer came in the form of an unusual piece of German engineering, the rotary engine, invented by Felix Wankel. Unlike traditional piston engines, the rotary used a spinning triangular rotor to create power. It was compact, lightweight, and promised smoother performance. Most companies dismissed it as impractical, but Mazda saw opportunity where others saw risk. In 1961, Mazda signed a deal to develop this strange new technology. It was a bold move for a company still relatively small compared to its rivals. Engineers worked tirelessly, facing countless setbacks, sealing problems, poor fuel economy, and durability issues. Many thought the project would bankrupt Mazda before it ever succeeded, but the company refused to give up. Each failure only pushed the engineers harder to perfect what others considered impossible. Their persistence paid off. By the late 1960s, Mazda had mastered the rotary engine, becoming the only automaker in the world to truly make it viable for mass production. It was a decision that would shape Mazda's identity for decades. The rotary wasn't just an engine, it was a statement of who Mazda was, a company willing to take risks, to innovate, and to challenge the norm. This gamble wasn't just about technology, it defined Mazda's spirit. While other manufacturers played it safe, Mazda embraced the unconventional. This willingness to break the rules would soon lead to iconic cars like the Cosmo Sport and RX series, forever linking Mazda's name with the daring roar of the rotary engine. It was a gamble, yes, but one that would become Mazda's signature. With the rotary engine perfected, Mazda was ready to show the world what it could do. In 1967, the company unveiled the Mazda Cosmo Sport 110S, a sleek, futuristic coupe that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. It wasn't just beautiful, it was groundbreaking. The Cosmo became the first production car to feature Mazda's rotary engine, and it stunned drivers with its smoothness and high-revving performance. Though production numbers were limited, it was a bold declaration. Mazda had entered the sports car arena with something no one else had. The success of the Cosmo laid the foundation for a dynasty of rotary-powered icons. In the 1970s came the RX-2 and RX-3, cars that combined affordability with exciting performance, giving everyday drivers a taste of racing spirit. But the crown jewel arrived in 1978, the RX-7. Lightweight, stylish, and powered by the rotary, the RX-7 became an instant legend. It wasn't just fast, it was balanced, nimble, and fun, capturing the essence of what driving was meant to feel like. The RX-7 defined Mazda's reputation on the global stage. Enthusiasts loved it, racers embraced it, and it quickly built a loyal following. The rotary's unique sound, the smooth surge of power, and the car's affordability made it unlike anything else on the road. In a world filled with predictable piston engines, Mazda gave drivers something daring, something different. This era showed Mazda at its boldest. The Cosmo and RX cars weren't just vehicles. They were statements of innovation and passion. They proved that Mazda wasn't just chasing trends, it was creating them. These rotary legends cemented Mazda's place in automotive history, carving a legacy that enthusiasts still celebrate today. It was a time when Mazda's gamble truly paid off, turning risk into unforgettable icons. By the late 1970s and 1980s, Mazda's rotary engines weren't just powering streetcars, they were making noise on racetracks around the globe. Mazda had discovered that the lightweight design and high-revving nature of the rotary made it perfect for endurance racing, where reliability and efficiency were as important as speed. This was Mazda's chance to prove its engineering genius to the world, and the company didn't hesitate to take it. The RX-7 quickly became a motorsport favorite. From touring car championships to endurance races, it showed up everywhere, winning fans and trophies alike. But Mazda's ultimate dream was to conquer the most grueling race of them all, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. This legendary French race was the proving ground for the best of the best, a place where manufacturers like Porsche, Ferrari, and Jaguar fought for glory. For Mazda, winning at Le Mans would mean international respect. In 1991, that dream came true. The bright orange and green Mazda 787B, powered by a screaming four-rotor rotary engine, shocked the racing world by taking first place. Not only did it win, it became the first Japanese car ever to triumph at Le Mans. The sound of its rotary engine echoing through the French countryside became the stuff of legend. To this day, many fans consider the 787B one of the greatest racing machines ever built. This victory wasn't just a trophy, it was validation. Mazda had shown that its unconventional rotary engine could stand tall against the giants of motorsport. The win placed Mazda in the history books and gave the brand a level of prestige it had never enjoyed before. Racing had proven what Mazda had always believed. Daring innovation could achieve greatness. And with that, Mazda's name was forever etched into motorsport history. By the late 1980s, the world of sports cars was changing. The affordable, lightweight roadsters of the 1960s, like the MGs, Triumphs, and Fiats, had all but disappeared. Rising costs and stricter regulations had killed the simple joy of open-top driving. But Mazda saw an opportunity where others saw the end of an era. What if a small, fun, reliable roadster could be reborn for a new generation? That idea gave birth to the MX-5 Miata. Launched in 1989, the MX-5 was a revelation. It wasn't about brute horsepower or luxury features. It was about pure driving fun. With its lightweight body, precise handling, and affordable price, the Miata captured the essence of what made classic roadsters so beloved, but without the reliability headaches. The formula was simple yet brilliant. Jinba Itai, a Japanese phrase meaning horse and rider as one. Mazda wanted drivers to feel connected to the car in a way no other manufacturer was offering. The result? A global sensation. Car enthusiasts, young buyers, and even seasoned sports car fans fell in love with the Miata. It quickly became the world's best-selling roadster, earning a cult following that continues to this day. The MX-5 proved that cars didn't need to be the fastest or most powerful to be legendary. They just needed to deliver joy every time you turned the key. The Miata also reinforced Mazda's reputation as a brand unafraid to go against the grain. At a time when the industry was chasing bigger, heavier, and more complex machines, Mazda reminded everyone of the simple pleasures of driving. The MX-5 didn't just save the roadster, it redefined it. And in doing so, it became one of the most iconic cars in Mazda's history, a living symbol of the brand's spirit. As the 1990s rolled in, Mazda was riding high on the success of its rotary icons and the global love affair with the MX-5 Miata. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. The Japanese economic bubble had burst, and smaller automakers like Mazda were feeling the pressure. Developing new technologies and competing against giants like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan required enormous resources. For Mazda, survival meant finding a strong ally. That ally came in the form of Ford. In 1979, Ford had already purchased a small stake in Mazda, but by the 1990s, the partnership deepened. Ford increased its ownership, giving Mazda financial stability and access to global markets. In return, Ford gained Mazda's engineering expertise in efficient manufacturing practices. Together, they collaborated on models like the Mazda Tribute and Ford Escape, as well as compact cars that shared platforms but carried distinct identities. The partnership was not without its critics. Some enthusiasts feared Mazda would lose its unique spirit under Ford's influence. Yet the collaboration allowed Mazda to weather economic storms that might have otherwise sunk the company. Ford's financial backing gave Mazda breathing room, while Mazda's engineering talent helped Ford improve its small cars, especially in fuel efficiency and handling. This chapter in Mazda's history is less glamorous than Le Mans victories or sports car triumphs, but it was just as critical. Without Ford, Mazda might not have survived the 1990s and early 2000s. Instead, the company endured, continuing to produce cars that balanced innovation with reliability. The Ford years showed that even independent, risk-taking brands sometimes need partnerships to stay alive. For Mazda, it was a period of compromise, survival, and preparation for the next wave of reinvention. By the late 2000s, Mazda was once again at a turning point. The Ford partnership had kept the company afloat, but the relationship was winding down. Mazda needed to stand on its own, and in a world increasingly focused on fuel efficiency and emissions, the challenge was enormous. While competitors rushed to hybrids and electrics, Mazda chose a different path. Instead of abandoning the internal combustion engine, it decided to reinvent it. The result was the SkyActiv technology. SkyActiv wasn't a single invention. It was a complete rethinking of how cars were built. Engines were made lighter and more efficient, transmissions were redesigned for smoothness, and chassis structures were strengthened yet slimmed down. Mazda's engineers pushed compression ratios to record levels, achieving fuel efficiency that rivaled hybrids without sacrificing performance. The idea was simple but bold. Driving could be clean, economical, and still fun. The first SkyActiv-powered cars, like the Mazda CX-5 and Mazda 3, stunned critics. Reviewers praised them for their sharp handling, stylish design, and impressive fuel economy. Unlike some eco-focused cars that felt soulless, Mazdas retained their trademark joy of driving. It was proof that responsibility and excitement didn't have to be opposites. SkyActiv was more than a set of technologies. It was a philosophy. It embodied Mazda's refusal to follow trends blindly and its belief in finding its own path. While others invested heavily in hybrids, Mazda showed there was still room to innovate within traditional engines. This approach won the brand global respect and redefined its identity in the modern era. The SkyActiv revolution gave Mazda a new lease on life. It showed the world that even a smaller company could outthink the giants, blending efficiency with passion. Once again, Mazda proved it was not afraid to be different, and that difference became its strength. Today, Mazda stands as one of the few car makers that has stayed true to its roots while adapting to a rapidly changing industry. Its lineup, cars like the Mazda 3, CX-5, and CX-90, carry the same DNA that has defined the brand for decades: stylish design, nimble handling, and a focus on the joy of driving. Even as SUVs dominate the market, Mazda continues to infuse each model with the spirit of Jinba Itai, ensuring that connection between driver and machine never fades. But the future holds new challenges. With the global shift toward electrification, Mazda has entered a new chapter. The MX-30, the brand's first fully electric vehicle, may not have the longest range, but it reflects Mazda's philosophy: create something unique, stylish, and purposeful, rather than simply following the crowd. At the same time, Mazda is exploring plug-in hybrids and advanced combustion technologies that aim to keep efficiency and driving pleasure alive in the EV era. The company has also leaned into premium design, using its Kodo Soul of Motion philosophy to give every model a sense of artistry. Sleek lines, minimalist interiors, and attention to detail show that Mazda is positioning itself not just as an affordable alternative, but as a brand that values craftsmanship and emotion. Looking forward, Mazda's challenge is balancing tradition with transformation. Can it maintain its daring spirit in an age where cars are becoming computers on wheels? If history is any guide, the answer is yes. From cork to cars, from devastation to reinvention, Mazda has proven it thrives by doing things differently. Its story is still being written, but one thing is clear: Mazda's future, like its past, will always be driven by passion.